people ask me logistical questions about how I make my videos. You know, what equipment do I use? What editing software do I use? And so this week I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of just answer all of those questions in one video. So this video is kind of going to go over really two parts, and that is, you know, what are the pieces of equipment that I use, hardware, software, etc., and then what does my general workflow look like in creating a video. So it's going to be a relatively short, relatively simple video, but if you've ever wondered about, you know, what goes on behind the scenes, this video is for you. So I have a few cameras that I use in my regular videos. So my primary camera, the one that I'm filming this on right now, is a Sony a7 III. And I got this just a few months ago, so I'm still not like super comfortable with it, but it's a really, really awesome camera. It's really versatile. And so there's two lenses that I really primarily use with it, and the one is just the kit lens, the one that comes with the camera. I believe it's a 35 to 70 f3.5 lens. And then the other one that I use is a 85mm prime f1.8 lens by Sony, which is a really, really good portrait lens. I use it for B-roll a lot, and I've shot a couple videos on it, but the problem is it kind of compresses your face and makes you look weird. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of the primary camera that I use. The camera that I use for the vast majority of my YouTube videos, though, is a Sony a5000, which is their very entry-level mirrorless camera. And I really love this camera primarily because of its flip-out screen. So that's something that the a7 III doesn't have. It doesn't have a flip-out screen, so I have to use an external monitor. I actually tend to use my iPad for that as a wireless external monitor. So I used this a5000 for a while, but there are a few shortcomings of it. One, it's not full frame and it doesn't have quite the performance that the a7 III has with, you know, 120 FPS slow-mo, stuff like that. But primarily it was actually an audio concern. So I can't use an external mic with the Sony a5000, but with the a7 III, I can use what I'm filming this on right now, which is the Rode VideoMic Pro. And having external audio is really key because audio actually makes up a significant portion of perceived quality in videos. Some people think as much as 50%, which is crazy. So a5000 is a great camera, but because it only has onboard audio, I kind of had to upgrade. And that's why I chose the a7 III for most of my shots. But for any like vlogging shots, any run and gun, the a5000 is still great. And then there are really two other cameras that I might shoot a shot on here and there. And that is my phone, which is right now, I just got it, the iPhone XS. Or I have a GoPro Hero Session, like the original Session, the tiny cube cameras. And I use that for like overhead shots, and my phone I would only really use if I didn't have a camera on me. But that doesn't really happen very often in the style of video that I've been making recently. So yeah, I use pretty standard, you know, SD cards like class 10, 64 gigabytes, and I use a Copland dongle to connect to my MacBook. So my MacBook, the laptop that I use for editing, is a 15-inch 2016 MacBook Pro. So it has the touch bar on it, and I use Final Cut Pro for my editing. So any videos that I edit in Final Cut Pro. And any thumbnails, any pictures, I'll use a combination of Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop. And so that's kind of my editing suite. Those are the tools that I use. Now, Final Cut Pro, if you're a student, you can actually get for a really big discount along with some of other Apple Creative Pro products. So I'm gonna try and link everything that I can in the description, but yeah, I think you can get it for like $200 and you get Logic and you get Motion. It's a pretty good deal. So if you're into, you know, pro production stuff, it's definitely worthwhile to consider. And I guess the last piece of gear, quote unquote, or software that I use is for script writing. So I'll sometimes write my scripts by hand and I'll storyboard. But more often than not, I will be typing my scripts because there's something that I'll work on in the background, you know, here and there. And I use a program called IA Writer. So IA Writer is a markdown writer for Mac, and I just really like it because it's like distraction free, which is something that really bothers me about, you know, Microsoft Word, Pages, Google Docs, etc. There's just a lot going on. Yeah, that's kind of, you know, what I use for writing my scripts, and that concludes the portion of the video where I'm talking about gear. So I feel like I could talk about the process of making a video for a really long time, and you know, it wouldn't really be that useful. While it would be explanatory as to how I make videos and my creative style, it wouldn't actually help anyone, you know, develop their own creative style. And the reason being is that to develop a creative style really just takes repetition. It just takes work and inspiration. And so what I'm going to try and do instead is just kind of spend like 30 to 60 seconds explaining my workflow. So that is like what I'm doing when I'm creating a video, just so you can see how all the pieces come together. All right, so first step, I write my script on my laptop or by hand, and I note any B-roll shots that need to be taken. I develop a list of these shots. Then I set up my big camera and I deliver my script in little parsable pieces so that I don't have to memorize the whole thing. And I don't really go based off of what the script says. It's kind of more of a guideline than anything. I think sounding scripted on YouTube just isn't really a recipe for success. So I try and just, talk genuinely, but follow the ideas and follow the progression in my script. So once I've shot all of that, I'll bring the footage into Final Cut Pro and I'll just mark where I need to insert B-roll footage. And then I'll actually go take that B-roll footage. So this might be making tea, this might be, writing notes, etc. And I'll just do all of that at once, just kind of going around taking those shots. And then I'll bring that all into Final Cut Pro as well, put it into more of a fine cut, and then I'll start to bring in music to it. Music especially goes with B-roll. So I find my music on YouTube, royalty-free music, YouTube audio library, a bunch of different sources. It's very easy to find. And then I bring that all into Final Cut Pro and I start to edit to the music. But again, that's a stylistic decision. You figure that out as you go. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Like, it's very straightforward how you make the videos. It's just a question of now figuring out what you want to make the videos about and actually executing on it, which is definitely the hardest part. But picking up the camera is like 90% of the problem, right? As soon as you can, start filming and start working on a project, I find that it really easily flows. The other thing I want to point out is that, like, for the most popular videos on my channel, like the, Day in the Life of Harvard, reading a book a week, whatever, those were all shot on like relatively low grade equipment, like my Sony a5000, and yet those are the videos that blew up the channel. So you don't need really fancy equipment to be successful on YouTube. All you really need is a creative idea and a decent delivery and a decent execution on it and a lot of luck, and it can work out. So if it's something that you've considered before in the past, making videos, if you think it might be fun, I definitely recommend it. Pick up whatever tools you have around. Phones are great for this nowadays, right? Phones are really good at video and really good at audio as well. And even though it might not be the production quality of a DSLR or a pro-grade mirrorless, you're still going to get a great video out of it if you put the time and the effort in. So hopefully this video could kind of explain my process, my equipment, answer some questions that people have had lingering. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Maybe drop a like if you enjoyed this video, if it was helpful. And I will see you next Friday.